Welcome everybody. Hi Last Cloudians, this is Zaz here, and today we'll be talking about another Devil May Cry collaboration unit in Last Cloudia. It's gonna be V. That's right, I'll be talking a little bit about his basics, and then we'll be moving on to some of the findings that I have about him. So before that, if you found the video useful, please like and subscribe to my channel for more Last Cloudia videos. So let's go. Let's roll. Alright guys, so here we have on the screen is V. If you've never seen him before, there you go. This is V. And first up, let's talk about his STR, Int, and MND, which is pretty balanced in a sense. So it's pretty decent for his stats wise. He has weakness to illness, right? And of course, I mean all the basic stuff, well, it's pretty clear on the screen. So what is interesting about him is that his skills and auto attacks all scale off STR and Int. Alright, it's probably the first time we see this, most likely. So this applies to all of his autos and his skills. So that is something that is really interesting about him, and we'll talk a little bit more about this mechanic later on in the video. Alright, let's move on to his auto attacks. So his auto attacks has 3 hits, and it fires to his target, can be anywhere on the map. So that is really nice. But it's just a projectile, right? You can see that it goes all the way across. So everything that's caught between will get hit by his auto attack. And what it means is that, well, more damage, obviously. But what it also means is that he can inflict more statuses. So statuses on units that he isn't even targeting. So that is something that is that you guys wanna like. It will really help in terms of the gameplay that for V. Alright, so let's move on to the S1, and that is 4 hits, and it's Thunder element with 14 SCT. Now it has the same horizontal line. You gotta be in the same horizontal line before he can fire it off. Okay, so that's like a little bit like a downside, but what it does is that everything across in that side of the map, he will hit it with a vertical column of lightning. Alright, so that has a slight bit of pushback, knockback, right? So that itself, although it has only 4 hits, but the damage wise is pretty decent. Now let's move to S2. Now it has 12 hits, 24 SCT for this skill. Now this one can be fired anywhere on the map, right? And summons his his cat. Okay, his cat, and it does a combo of attacks, and it finishes with an AOE. Okay, and it also has a chance to inflict poison. So one interesting thing about V is that all his skills, most of his skills, 3 out of 4 of his skills are able to inflict status ailments. So the first thing we have is poison with his S2, and the infliction rate is rumored to be 20%. So if you dual wield it, it's going to be 40%. So take note of that. Now S3, 11 hits, 35 SCT. Now it's pretty high cost over here. Now like S1, and having to be horizontally aligned with the target. Okay, so you gotta be horizontally aligned. If not, you won't fire. And next thing is it has to be of a certain distance from the target before it can fire it off. So that's something different from S1, right? So summons his tiger to swipe his enemies in an AOE fashion. Alright, so it's a pretty nice animation, that you will go around swiping and whatnot. So this one has a bigger knockback than the rest of the skills, especially during the last hit when the lion turns into like a Venus fly trap, something like that. So it's rumored also, of course, the same thing, 20% activation of blind, okay, and 40% with dual wield. Well, we move on to his ultimate. Now I usually don't want to talk about ultimates, but this one it's interesting because it also has an infliction rate of 20%, right, for each status. So his ultimate also has chance to inflict 2 statuses. It is curse and wait, what is it again? Silence. That's right, silence. So curse and silence. So each of them has a 20% chance of activation, and you can't do anything with dual wield. So ultimates are not affected by dual wield. So bummers to that. But then again, these two skills are actually very status ailments. I mean, are actually very crucial in terms of a lot of fights, basically, because the opponent can't cast spells, which sometimes is very devastating, right? And a curse, can't use skills, which is also very devastating. So this two is actually pretty decent. Yeah, so that's what I want to talk about the ultimates. Alright, so next we will move on to his traits. Oh, I didn't even click on this. Right, so we move on to his traits, okay? So pretty straightforward. Trait 1, okay? Buff to STT recovery, buff to damage, buff to damage cap. So pretty straightforward to that. And as trait 2 is rather interesting because it is a fast annular melt. So it means that at the battle start, it will immediately be inflicted on the enemy. Okay, and this is a 100% activation rate, and the enemies will be lowered by 1 level of their status ailment resistances. Okay, so I'll talk about a little bit more about this, but later on. It lasts 25 seconds. Okay, so it's not really like an annular melt spell. It is only, I mean, the usual spell, I think it lasts 40 seconds, but this one is 25 seconds. So take note to that. You might need to reapply this in 20 odd seconds to make sure that this thing lasts, continues. Next, there is also the 20% additional damage to enemies with status ailments. Alright, so this will make him deal more damage to enemies that have statuses inflicted on them. Alright, so this is something to take note of. And of course, the part whereby bosses will also get more break damage. So, pretty straightforward stuff there. Right, next, let's move on to his castable spells. So he only has 2 spells. One spell is Annular Melt, obvious. So in that sense, he can be in the role of lowering status ailments of enemies. So primarily that will be his role, right? He will be you don't need to put this on any other support unit which costs 10 SCT. It's pretty expensive. So it's pretty nice if you are using him for that, and then you will probably enable your other team members to also inflict status ailments if you would like that. And of course, the other skill which is pretty crazy is Book. What a name, right? I mean, at least have a title to Book, right? Okay, but anyways, okay, so at the cost of 0 MP, 35% damage taken. So this will make him take more damage by 35%, which is a little bit dangerous, right? So you probably want to put some survivability on him. And next, what it gives is actually pretty insane. 50% damage increase. Okay, 25% SCT recovery, right? That is crazy. And last but not least, 15% additional crit rate. That is crazy, right? So basically you will want that in almost any situation, unless of course you know that there's a big hit coming to you, right? So moving on, Goddess Kiss is in his kit. I didn't even click this, guys. Why didn't you remind? Okay, never mind. Okay, so next you can see Goddess Kiss. Okay, it's also here, Goddess Kiss. So Goddess Kiss is absorbing 2% MP, right? So what it means is that he will have a constant stream of MP if you are using him in some ways, some of his auto attack, right? Using his auto attacks basically. So if you are using his basic attacks, he will be getting MP back. So he'll be sort of absorbing and sucking MP. And what this means is that at this point, right, as you can see from his activatable spells, he only has Annular Melt. And technically speaking, you don't need that much MP to cast Annular Melt, right? Because it lasts for quite a bit. So what this opens up is actually for him to be possibly used as either putting support spells on him, where he'll be able to constantly still cast supportive spells, or debuffs or buffs, right, on units. And or you can even put him as a healer, as a sub healer, whereby you can use a God Heal or whatever it is, a Glass Record. You know, you also add SCT, right, to your whole team. So technically like a little bit that are supportive. Or you can go for pure damage, you know, pure damage, sharp eyes, you know, that would also probably work, right? All these things make full use of his MP. So you guys want to take note on how to make use of his MP. If you want to play him as a mage, I don't think it's recommended, but you know, because he doesn't have anything in relevance to being a mage. You know, no magic ups, no crits. You know, like there's a lot of things that he doesn't really have. But of course, if you want to play him a certain way, he is still viable to be played that way. All right. So moving on with Thaumaturgy Ring. Having a problem with that. Right. But anyways, you guys know what I'm saying. This one, right? This is the interesting thing. Okay, from my research, his skills and auto attacks scale on 1:1 strength and int. So STR int is a 1:1 ratio, meaning if you add 1 strength, if you add 1 int, it's gonna add the same thing, right? So this is and this skill itself would mean that having int is actually better than having strength, because if you have int, it will still add, you know, 20% of that int to strength, right? So technically speaking, if you were to build him with int instead of STR, you will get more value out of the stats. Okay, so that is what that means. Okay, so moving on, Shadow's Protection.